I've seen Matt Marshall's so-called apology. I don't even want to call it that because it's not really that, because he spends a majority of the 16-minute video explaining away his actions and evading all accountability. And so for that reason, I'm going to go through and explain all the ways that Matt's video was not a true apology and instead was just an explanation and justification. And I apologize, I'm probably going to be looking away from the screen because I've written an entire script to make sure that, one, I do this as well and fully as I possibly can, and so that I do not mess up any of the quotes because I'm going to be quoting Matt directly several times. The first problem with Matt's non-apology is its incompleteness. Matt's apology solely focuses on the way he emotionally abused people that he was in personal relationships with, whether that be friendships or romantic relationships, and fails to mention or acknowledge the allegations that were brought forward by several autistic creators that are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. These allegations include that he spread harmful misinformation and dismissed them pointing that out because of racial biases. For example, Janella, who's known as Diversity and Neurodiversity, made a video outlining her experience with Matt attempting to use Janella for emotional labor after Janella had made a video addressing why what Matt did with the Dr. Kojo situation was problematic and racially motivated. Additionally, Matt used Raina's video during the whole self-diagnosis misinformation situation when Raina's stitches and duets were turned off, which violated that boundary that Raina had set for herself to protect herself, which is actually why I'm not going to show Matt's video for the similar reason, because Matt has his stitches and duets off, thus bypassing consent of using Raina's content in his own. And then after that, pressured Raina in direct messages to accept his apology, and Raina decided to do that because the whole situation had been very distressing for Raina, and so it was just easier to accept it and move on, even though it was not sitting right with her. And then lastly, Matt blocked Callie after Callie had commented on multiple videos of Matt's pointing out the misinformation that he was spreading, and clearly was not open for a conversation with Callie regarding why it was misinformation and how it was harmful, and instead decided to block her and call her dangerous. These are all things that Matt failed to acknowledge whatsoever, and instead offered a blanket apology for the harm that he caused people that he was in relationships with, as well as conveniently not mentioning any names or specific actions, even for the people that he was in relationships with. For example, he says, "I want to validate the hurt that I've caused and acknowledge the impact that my actions have had, not only on the most recent relationship, but previous ones as well, of any capacity, big and small." His failure to name the specifics of allegations, acknowledge allegations made by people other than Florence, specifically Black, Indigenous, people of color's allegations, and address any of the victims by name is an intentional tactic used to downplay the severity of the allegations to listeners who are less informed or who have not seen the allegations directly from those individuals. And it's for this reason that I'm going to be tagging all the creators who have come forward in the caption. Unfortunately, there's a limit on how many videos I can tag, so that's why I'm just going to tag their usernames, and you can go to their pages and see the videos that they've made themselves. The second mistake Matt made is the overemphasis on intentions. Matt continually stresses that their actions were not malicious or intentional, and that they were driven by genuine feelings at the time. For example, they say the following quotes indicating this. First, "None of it was out of malice. Everything I said and did was true to what I was feeling at the time. I was just doing what I thought was okay with the knowledge I had." All of which seem to give the same energy as this video.
"Sorry, I don't have any. I'm a little baby. I'm a baby. I have no money. I can pay you in blocks."
"You're not a baby, you're a man!"
"No, I'm a baby."
By repeatedly focusing on their intent, Matt is effectively asking for sympathy and understanding, while they acknowledge that the intent doesn't change the impact. The repeated mentions of intentions minimizes the harm experienced by the victims. This becomes a defense mechanism rather than a full acceptance of responsibility. The third problem is self-centeredness and victimization. Throughout Matt's apology, Matt frequently discusses their own emotional state, personal struggles, and losses. Examples include, "I'm as broken as can be. This has already cost me my new home, my friends, and as of today, my job," which is purposely very misleading because it's implying that he's now homeless, which he actually had been living at home with his parents for almost a year and was recently moving to a different location. And so when he says he's lost his home, he's lost the new apartment that he was moving to, he still is able to move back in with his parents. And when he lives with his parents and lived with them in the past, he did not have to cover the cost of any bills, which means that him not having a job also doesn't really affect him right now either because of his privilege. And the last example being, "I was defensive and confused." These statements center Matt's suffering and personal consequences, which shifts the focus away from the person who was harmed. This can make Matt's apology feel self-serving, as though Matt is seeking validation or pity for their own pain rather than focusing on the victim's pain, and it dilutes the sincerity of Matt's apology. The fourth issue is rationalizing harmful behavior. Matt offers a lot of explanations as to why they acted in certain ways. They reference the following quotes. Walls shooting up internally. I have a clear pattern of jumping headfirst into relationships. I have a clear inability to regulate myself and my emotions after physical intimacy. These explanations read as rationalizations for harmful behavior, which undermines the sincerity of Matt's apology. Even though Matt says they aren't using these reasons to excuse the harm, explaining the psychological or emotional reasons behind their actions can come across as deflecting responsibility. It can feel like they're justifying their actions rather than fully owning up to them. The fifth problem is transactional approach to amends. Matt's apology details how Matt attempts to send gifts or offer financial amends, such as, we started with the idea of me sending gifts. I reached out to a previous partner and let them know I no longer wanted them to pay back a financial debt. These attempts at making amends seem superficial and transactional, as though they are trying to make up for the harm in a material or practical way without addressing the deeper emotional and relational damage that they caused. True amends come from ongoing actions that demonstrate changed behavior and genuine effort to restore trust, not sending gifts or resolving financial matters. The way that he did this is actually a great example of financial abuse. The sixth problem with this apology is that it was overwhelming and unfocused. Matt's apology is long. 16 minutes, man, come on. Repetitive, and at times convoluted. It frequently shifts between acknowledging harm, explaining intentions, discussing Matt's own emotional turmoil. This unfocused approach weakens the impact of Matt's apology because it becomes difficult to identify the core message. Instead of clearly stating, I hurt you, I'm sorry, and here's how I'll change, Matt's apology reads more like a stream of consciousness where Matt seems to be working through their own feelings. This makes it harder for the victim to feel that Matt's apology is truly about them, because it isn't. The seventh problem is a lack of specific forward-looking actions. While Matt mentions ongoing therapy and a commitment to personal growth, there's little clarity about specific forward-looking actions that will prevent this from happening again. This is compounded by the fact that he made the same empty apology to multiple the people that he is in relationships with or who brought problems to him in the past, promising to grow and learn and change from that conversation. Meanwhile, he repeated the pattern multiple times with multiple victims without actually changing or addressing the problems that he acknowledged he had. Matt's apology could benefit from clearer steps regarding how Matt will change their behavior beyond vague statements like, I'm going to work on myself. Without concrete actions, Matt's apology lacks accountability and a clear path for improvement. And the last problem is defensiveness. At many points in his video, Matt seems to become defensive, such as when they say, I was as honest as I could have been every step of the way, and my actions weren't motivated by narcissism. As well as claiming that Florence tried to blackmail him into paying $1,000 for therapy, which was a joke. And when he brought that up to us in our group chat, we told him, this is a joke, Matt, and it's a hilarious one at that. Even though they attempt to somewhat accept responsibility, these defensive statements subtly shift blame or diminish the harm they've caused. It can feel like Matt is trying to prove they weren't that bad, which undermines Matt's apology. This is also something that's called Darvo, and if you want me to do a video going in depth about what Darvo is and examples in Matt's apology that are Darvo tactics, I will be happy to do that. Defensiveness should have no place in a true apology. It signals that Matt still feels the need to justify or defend their actions rather than simply owning them. So in conclusion, the primary issues with his apology are Matt's focus on their own intentions, their self-victimizations, their defensiveness, and their failure to mention multiple allegations with specificity. These elements detract from the sincerity of the apology and shift attention away from victims' pain, making it feel less about true accountability and more about justifying and explaining their actions. I wonder why they might want to do that on their public platform. Wonder why. While there are elements of ownership and regret, the apology is clouded by self-centeredness and over-explanation, which dilutes the effectiveness of the message. Ultimately, this apology would have been much more effective in an actual apology, because it really was not one, if it was concise, direct, entirely focused on taking responsibility and ensuring all of the victim's healing, rather than justifying or rationalizing Matt's actions because of his intentions.